Hello all and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thanks so much for popping in and seeing what we're up to over here. Mostly true crime lately. My name is Ashley Robin and I'm just a weirdo on the internet trying to moonlight as a true crime YouTuber while I'm a full-time artist by day. On my channel you'll find some process videos related to my art, which often incorporate my own vocals as the audio accompaniment, along with some original music, which I am working on more of, and of course, True Crime Time Hop. This series is all basically just one big pilot for an idea I had. For each day, we look into a true crime event in history that corresponds with that date, and we have ourselves a little story time. If you start from episode 1, you will find quite a few changes and improvements have been made throughout, but I can guarantee you of two things. One, I still have no idea what the hell I am doing. And two, it will continue to improve as long as I continue to apply myself. 10 videos in 10 days is like a full-time job. Between researching, writing each script, which are typically 2 to 3 typed pages, recording and re-recording until I like it line by line, hours of editing, and then I'm also creating my own audio accompaniment tracks in GarageBand and my own animations in Procreate. And in GarageBand, I'm not using the pre-made loops. I'm making everything note by note myself. I'm hoping all of my hard work and my consistency eventually pay off, and that I'm able to reach 1,000 followers soon, or it may be a 30-day miniseries. But for now, one thing I'm sure of is that I'm definitely having fun. Starting this series has given my days a surprising amount of structure. When I first started, I wasn't taking myself too seriously, but then I'm like, wow, I actually really enjoy this, and I would love to make this my main gig. So please, boop that subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already. And if you would like to support this channel further and see me push this past 30 days, you can also support me on Patreon. I will link that in the description for you. For like 2 or 3 Starbucks coffees worth of money a month, you could enable me to keep the content coming for you and also to continue with my art. And there are also free gifts involved, so everyone wins. Thanks for listening to my rant. In my first several episodes, I was really emphasizing the fact that I still had no supporters on Patreon because it's like, I've had my Patreon for quite a while now. I haven't really been promoting it too much, but I did promote it a little bit, and I'm surprised that out of all of my friends that know I'm doing this, none of them subscribed even for like the $5 or $10 tiers. But it's fine. I think I got over that. I don't know, the first several episodes I was just like fully unsure of myself, just in general, and the fact that I had no subs on there kind of was making me feel more insecure, but since then, I've just kind of accepted the fact that it's just a matter of time. I know this is a good idea, and I know that I have the chops. I'm proving to myself and to anybody that's paying attention that I can show up for this. So if this is something that can become a thing, I am here and capable of that. Plus, it would be the perfect solution to a lot of my problems. So, anyway, yes, for sure, I'm definitely actually done with the rant now. I'm sorry. One thing about this series in particular that I love is that I decided to go out of my way to find cases that I have never heard of personally, or that I don't know much about. This involves going further back into history than most of the true crime series I've heard, and reaching across the globe to delve into the dark history that is in other countries as well. For the last few days, it's raining outside. Actually, right now it's raining and snowing, and let me tell you, earlier today, the snowflakes were freaking gigantic. I will include a video so you can see this. Anyway, with the weather being as dreary as it's been, I thought it would be kinda cute to make this episode a ghost story, but this is a true crime series, so we're not reading a creepypasta here today. This is True Crime Time Hop, episode 10 by the way. Warning, the following content may be disturbing to some audiences. If you might be triggered by talk of murder, dead bodies, paranormal activity, etc., exit the video now and prioritize your mental health. Viewer discretion is advised. Elva Zona Heaster was born in West Virginia at the foot of Little Sewell Mountain, just north of Meadow Bluff. Not many particulars are known about her short life. She was born in 1876. In the summer of 1896, Erasmus Stribling Shue, who often went by Edward and whose nickname was Trout, moved in from Droop Mountain in Pocahontas County, West Virginia, to the village of Livesay's Mill in Greenbriar County. Erasmus was tall and muscular, devilishly handsome, and a blacksmith, so naturally Zona wanted to break off a piece of that. Come on, ladies, let's be real with it. There's just something about a blacksmith. They were married in October of that same year, so just a few short months later. Premarital sex was frowned upon, and let's face it, she wanted that D. Anyway. Unfortunately, like many, not all, but many good-looking men, he was secretly a self-serving asshole. On this day, January 23rd, in 1897, just a few short months after they had met, fallen in love, and gotten married, Trout went to the home of Martha Jones, who the locals knew as Aunt Martha. He asked her to have her 12-year-old son do him a favor and go to his home to see if his wife Zona needed anything from the store. She was feeling ill and had been having regular visits from the doctor for 2 weeks already at that point. When the young boy arrived at their home, he was met with a ghastly sight. 23-year-old Elva Zona Heaster Shue's body lay lifeless at the foot of the stairs. She was face down with her arm outstretched in front of her. Her other arm was underneath her, and her head was tilted at an unnatural angle. Victorian custom dictated that when a woman would die, the family of that deceased woman would prepare her body for funeral proceedings. Everyone took it as an accidental death. Clearly she'd fallen downstairs because she was off balance from feeling ill, but it was very odd for the women in her family to find that when they went to prepare her, it had been done by her loving husband Trout. Trout dressed her in a long gown with a high collar and a scarf that didn't match it at all. They wanted to take the scarf off of her, but he insisted they keep it on because it was her favorite. The town's doctor came to do a post-mortem exam on poor Zona, but he was more or less just putting on a show of it for the sake of her grieving husband. The whole time that the doctor was there, Trout stood there wailing loudly, which was odd for the stoic blacksmith. The doctor was barely allowed to give her more than a visual check because the grieving husband, loudly mourning over her body, did not let the doctor anywhere near her. One thing that was evident from his visual check was that she was dead for much longer than Trout had claimed she could have been. But the doctor felt it was best to give the man his space to be a hot mess in private, so he concluded that the cause of death was everlasting faint, which is like not even a real thing, and he called it a day. At the wake, the family noticed Trout having unusual behavior. He wouldn't let anyone near the body unless he was standing by the head of the casket. They also pointed out that her head moved unusually freely before her coffin was padded, to make her more comfortable, or so Trout claimed. Elva's mother, Mary, took the sheet that was in the casket at the wake and kept it to give to her mourning husband, but he didn't want it. The town talked, but they were powerless to do anything more in the situation, and the woman was buried January 24th. Mary took the sheet she had saved and put it in her laundry tub with the rest of her white linens, but it turned blood red. At first, she thought that all the clothes were ruined, but it was just that one sheet, almost as though it was a supernatural happening. She hung it out for 3 days to bleach it in the sun, but it stayed blood red, and she took it as a sign, a confirmation of what she felt in her gut. Her daughter was murdered. She asked for a sign, and this was it. Every night for 4 weeks, Mary prayed for another sign. As a result, her daughter's ghost allegedly visited as a strange stream of light that entered her room and took human form 4 nights in a row. They at first could not figure out a way to communicate, but the ghost kept coming until she was understood by her mother. Elva allegedly told Mary that she made a lavish dinner for her husband that night, but they had no meat for the meal, and Trout became enraged about it, so he physically attacked his wife. His anger continued to escalate until he placed a hand on either side of her head and snapped her neck. Mary visited the local prosecutor's office straight away, and she would not relent with her insistence that they needed to reinvestigate the death of her daughter. By the time she left, the prosecutor was intrigued enough to do just that. He knew there was already a lot of talk in town about the widowed man acting oddly, so he took to re-interviewing many of the witnesses. Dr. Knapp openly admitted that he was unable to properly examine the body, and her corpse was soon exhumed. To everyone's shock and awe, they removed the scarf, and underneath it was revealed that she had finger-shaped bruises on the skin of her neck. Her windpipe was crushed, and her neck was broken at the first vertebrae. Trout was soon tried for her murder, and his court proceedings began in Lewisburg on June 30th that year. He hired James Gardner and William Riegler to represent him in court. And here's a random fun fact. James Gardner was the first black lawyer to practice in a circuit court in the state of Virginia. During the trial, it was exposed that Trout was a horse thief. It was also discovered that Zona was his third wife. The first one left him because he was abusive towards her, and the second one died suddenly and unexpectedly. Mary was called to the stand, and the opposing court ridiculed her publicly for her claims of the apparition that visited her. But nonetheless, Trout was charged with the murder and sentenced to life in prison. He died at the age of 39 on March 13th of the year 1900 in the West Virginia State Penitentiary. He died of an epidemic virus that was unknown at the time. Likely influenza, but maybe it was karma.